Dave, thank you very much for being here. Welcome to the House of Robb.
I love being here.
Dave is a resident of Austin, so you haven't had too far to go. So, as Christina said, you are a 4 times best-selling author. You're a businessman, you're an entrepreneur, you're the father of the biohacking movement. So, Dave, your career, your life, it seems to me, has kind of been in 2 parts. There was your very early success, and then there was the moment that kind of changed your life, which you kind of refer to as your breakdown, or that moment when you were about 28 when you realized things had to change, and then everything that's gone since that has literally made you the man you are, and has kind of created this kind of movement and this world behind you. So I want to get into all of that, but let's start at the beginning.
Well, since I knew a thing or two about the internet, I was like, okay, this is going to be big someday. I guess I was right. So I went to Silicon Valley, and I was a co-founder of a part of the company that held Google's first servers. When Google was 2 guys and 2 computers, they put them in my company's buildings. And then the part of the company that I started did the professional services work to run pretty much all the companies you've heard of, the Facebook, Salesforce.com, they all started in our buildings. So I'm 26, and I made $6 million. And these were pre-Biden dollars, so they were real dollars. I think that's worth like 40 million today and counting. But it was a lot of money, and I lost it when I was 28. So I had a brief taste of success.
How did that happen? How did you make it? How did you lose it? I can guess how you might have lost it, but how did you make it?
So I was allowed to attend board meetings. I was 26, 27. I wasn't allowed to speak in board meetings, but I was doing technology strategy for a $36 billion company. And that means I had inside information, so I couldn't sell my shares because I knew what was happening, and I watched the dot-com crash happen when I was blocked out.
And so you had all this money, and you were mid-20s. That must have been a kind of an interesting time. I mean, what were you doing at that point that led to your kind of eventual burnout and the moment that changed?
I was already obese. I had hit 300 pounds by the time I was 23, and I was working really hard. I was teaching at the University of California, how do we build the internet in the evenings, and my brain stopped working. I bought disability insurance because I couldn't remember things, and no one knew what was wrong with me, and no matter how much I exercised, I couldn't lose weight, and I just felt like I had the accelerator pushed all the way down, and I was slowing down, and there was nothing to do about that. So it's this feeling of helplessness, and I said, I'm going to have to fix this. I went to the doctor, and he said, maybe you should try to lose weight. And I looked at him and I said, well, maybe you should try to lose weight, because he was fat. And I said, well, do you think I'm not trying? He said, maybe you should exercise. And I'm like, I do 90 minutes a day, 6 days a week. I'm still fat. And you could tell he just thought I was lying. So I'm like, look, if I can hack the internet, and I really am a computer hacker, why can't I hack this? And it turns out you can. And that was the very beginning of what I eventually named the biohacking movement.
I mean, it doesn't sound simple when you say it like that, because there's so many hundreds of questions that come from that. But I love the mindset that says, I've done one thing, so I can then take that transferable skill and take it on to something else. But what was the first thing you tried to do that succeeded, that made you think this is something?
It's funny, the definition of success is different. You have to track what you hack, because a goal may be, I want to be smarter, or I want to be thinner, or I want to be stronger, or I want to be younger. And they're very different goals. So the first thing I did is I said, I think I should fix my brain, because that's how I make my money. So I spent $1,200 on smart drugs from Europe. And when they came in, I took them and I said, that was a waste of money, they don't work. But when I stopped taking them, I said, no, I'm dumb again. So when you're on smart drugs that work, you just feel like more of yourself and everything's easy. So I realized these things work. So I used cognitive enhancement to make my brain work so I could do the rest of this. I was on what they call the limitless pill when I got my MBA from Wharton. And I was on ABC Nightline. I was the only guy without a bag on my head saying, yeah, I take the limitless pill. It's how I got my MBA. It's how I built my career in Silicon Valley. And I've been on smart drugs ever since. Having a young brain is more important than having a young body, but I like both.
Now, when you say they work, what measures are you taking to well, how are you measuring that? Is it just a sense of you're feeling sharper and smarter, or are there ways of quantifying that?
There are very specific ways of quantifying it. One of my more well-read books was called Headstrong, and it's a science monthly best-selling book. Oh, why, thank you. And it's about all the different things you can do that are measurable. One of the things that's really easy is how fast can you type? You take the smart drug that I'm on, you type 15% faster. That's very quantifiable. What's your reaction time? What's your working memory? In fact, I ran a study of butter in mold-free coffee versus Starbucks coffee, with or without butter. And I showed on 6 of 7 university-grade measures, there were statistically significant improvements from putting butter in coffee. So that actually works.
Now, tell us a little bit about this kind of moment where coffee again came into your life, because you went up Mount Kalish. Am I pronouncing that right?
Well, I went around Mount Kailash. You're not allowed to walk up it, because that's
Okay.
where the gods live. They get offended.
So tell us about that whole process and what that did for you, and where it is as well.
Once I kind of timed out on all the stuff that was supposed to work, I've been taking antibiotics every month for 15 years for sinus things, and I'd had 3 knee surgeries. I said, I'm going to try this stuff that's not supposed to work. So I'll go learn meditation from the masters. And I spent 3 months. And I ended up in a remote part of Tibet at 18,000 feet. And it's 10 degrees below zero. Wind is blowing. It's miserable. And a little Tibetan woman gave me a bowl of yak butter tea, which is yak butter in tea. And I drank it, and it didn't taste great. But my brain turned on. I'm like, what happened? So I felt better than I had in a long time. And I went home and I started trying different butter. It turns out it has to be grass-fed. And I tried it in coffee versus tea. And I eventually came up with a recipe for Bulletproof coffee. Now today I'm not with Bulletproof at all anymore. Danger Coffee is my new coffee company. It's got minerals. It's good. And you can have it here. Thank you, House of Robb.
Butter plus caffeine, or butter plus coffee together. Why does that work?
There are about 7 different things that happen inside your body when you blend butter into your coffee. One of them is it changes how caffeine is absorbed. The one that's most impressive, though, we didn't know when I started doing it. I funded research at the University of Washington that proved this. When you put droplets of butter in water and then you heat it up, it changes the structure of the water to match the structure of water inside your cells, which is necessary in order to make energy. The Tibetans figured out there's no food there. They're just drinking yak butter tea and a little bit of barley flour, and they're twice as strong as me. I'm like, how's this possible? Well, when we drink water now, our body heats it up and holds the water against our cells, which are made of fat, and then that converts the water. They're converting it in a blender when you use that idea of butter in coffee. It's the same thing that plant juice can do. Fresh squeezed juice is that it just refreshes you in a different way.
And so once you had created Bulletproof coffee, that then became part of the beginning of this movement, right? It was the kind of catalyst almost for you to take a bigger step.
When I was on the side of that mountain, I was looking for a name. I'd run an anti-aging longevity nonprofit group for almost 7 years at that time in Silicon Valley, but no one under 60 would ever come. And I'm like, I need to make longevity cool. And biohacking is this idea that you can change the environment around you and inside of you to have control of your own biology. And that's all I ever wanted. I wanted a brain that would work. I didn't want to be fat. I didn't want to hurt all the time. And I wanted to be resilient to stress. And if I'd have those things, I can do whatever I want to do. So suddenly the biohacking movement took off. I did not trademark the term. It's a global movement. Today it's between a $10 billion and a $63 billion industry. And yeah, my name's in the dictionary for that.
So let's talk about longevity then as a kind of broader concept, because it's fascinating and it can mean different things to different people, I guess, right? So what is longevity to you? Because is it just living to 150?
Well, there's a group of Luddites, these old-fashioned people who think longevity is health span. Oh, we can't extend human life. You just want to be healthy until you die at 85. The other kind of longevity is what I do. We are extending human life. You are going to live way longer than you think you are, and you're going to be healthy the entire time. So when someone says the goal is to be healthy until you die normally, these are people with blinders on. You can extend human life. You can already reverse your age. I age at 72% the rate of average people, and I'm at least 11 years younger than my calendar age. In fact, it's creating a problem. I go into the doctor's office or the DMV, and they say, what's your gender? And you just get to pick whatever you feel like that day. But then they get to age, and the age says I'm 51 on the calendar, but I identify as being about 39. So they're not respecting my identity.
I'm not going to go there. But tell me how you're measuring that.
Sorry, I got you. Sorry, just say it again.
That's not a dad joke. That doesn't count. So how are you measuring your age then?
There are about 10 variables you can measure, and all of them provide different things, like the flexibility of your arteries. I'm 26 years old. The response time of your brain, mine is the same as an 18-year-old. Your brain slows down as you age. You could look at the DNA methylation pathways, something called true age, which is the most scientifically validated way of doing it. And that's something that thousands of scientists have worked on for the last 10 years. So we can look at your DNA and say, your DNA methylation, but we can look at that and say, how does this compare to most people? And we can say, oh, your tissues are younger or older than your actual age. We couldn't do this 10 years ago, so it's a major breakthrough. And it's a way to show that what me and thousands of other longevity scientists are doing, that it actually works or it doesn't work.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Because it is changing the way we've thought about the very basic things of life and how we've thought about it for time immemorial.
It is. And there's some other variables that you can use for aging. One of my companies is called Upgrade Labs. We're opening here in Austin in middle of April. We have 27 locations opening around the US and Canada right now. And you come in and we use medical grade technology, but it's not a medical operation. And we use AI to tell you what to do to get the results you want for longevity or for cognitive enhancement or for these other things. And what's really interesting about that is you can look at your liver fat and your organ fat, the fat you can't see. So we'll tell you your percentage body fat. I'm 6% body fat right now. But it's the fat in your organs and the fat in your liver that's really dangerous, and that's what makes you old.
Right.
And I have, at the very low end of the range for an 18-year-old, my organ fat, which means whatever I've been doing for the past 10 years sure is working. And we could put you in an Upgrade Labs, say, well, here's how you're doing. This is the most dangerous kind of fat. Is it there? Is it not? If it's there and you want to get rid of it, what are you going to do? We'll tell you what to do.
And presumably that is different from, we could put 10 people here and it would be a different response.
Yeah, each person will be different. But we can compare you to an average 18-year-old or an average 50-year-old or an average 100-year-old. You get more fat as you age unless you do something about it.
And what are some of those options that you do about it? So it's not going out for a run.
No, running doesn't work. In fact, it's probably bad for you unless it's a short run. Sorry, just have to say that. What we would do is we'd say, all right, let's fix your metabolism. And sometimes there's nutritional interventions, sometimes intermittent fasting, but usually we have technologies, things like specific frequency red light therapy, things like lymphatic drainage that's controlled by computers. This is not like going to the gym, but our AI system is going to select which interventions are going to move your metabolism in the right direction. It may be pulsed electromagnetic frequencies, but whatever you're doing works better than running or picking up rocks, which is what we've been doing for the last 200 years of exercise. Literally, run away from tigers and pick up rocks, concentrate the rocks into kettlebells. But we can do better. We have all this tech.
I'll come back to your routine because I'm fascinated to know what your kind of day is like. But you mentioned intermittent fasting, and that has become like the hot topic of longevity or health or whatever else. Tell us your thoughts on IT. Does it work? Does it work for everybody? What's the thought?
Both keto and intermittent fasting kind of pissed me off. And the first major book that included intermittent fasting was called The Bulletproof Diet. It's up to almost 1 million copies sold. And in the book, it says, don't do keto all the time. It's bad for you. But people say he's the keto guy. and it says, don't do intermittent fasting all the time. It's bad for you. And they say, he's the intermittent fasting guy. So people think I only eat one meal a day, right? And I'm keto all the time. And I'm sitting there eating sushi full of rice going, I don't think that's true. But you should do intermittent fasting 3 days a week for 12 hours a day or more. And for women, that's the amount of intermittent fasting where benefits start to kick in. It's different for men and women. And if you're tired, if you're blown out, if you're jet lagged, you probably don't need to intermittent fast. You can overdo it. It's a scalpel, just like the keto diet. I want people to know, if I eat this way, I'm going to feel amazing. And if I eat this way, I'm going to lose weight or I'm going to gain muscle. And it turns out sometimes skipping breakfast is a good idea, but not always.
And that's part of the problem, I think, is that we all want a simple answer. We all want to get to the solution in the shortest possible way, because humans are lazy and we want to, not do the work and just get the answers. So there's not a one-size-fits-all type thing. And that's
it's artificial intelligence. The problem is, because our brains are lazy, they don't want to use electricity. Like, why would I decide what to do every day? I'll just do the same thing every day. So I'm going to wake up and I'm going to do CrossFit and I'm going to do this. But you're not the same every day, right? We're in a different state. And so what your body needs every day is not the same. You might need it every 3 days. And that takes tracking and decision making. So we tend to either not do it at all or do it every day, which doesn't work well. And then we don't know what to do. So for me, the Upgrade Labs data set and the applications, where anyone who's a member, and soon they can be virtual members or members in the actual facilities, they'll be able to just have a system that says, well, based on where you are now and your most important objectives, here's what to do. So you don't have to think about it. And we have so much information now. I mean, this is the first biohacking center. I opened it 8 years ago under Arnold Schwarzenegger's office. And we've been working on how do we make humans more effective in the least possible time. So people were joking on Instagram, my shirt's off all the time, because I'm usually doing a cold plunge when I record stuff. But I work out 20 minutes a week, and I'm ripped. And it's because I have AI helping me, not because I work hard. Working hard is something I do in my business.
So let's talk about your day, and with the understanding, obviously, as you just said, that there is no day that's the same as another day. But from the moment you wake up, what do you think? Is it mapped out? Do you know what you're doing for longevity purposes through the course of the day, or how does it work with you?
What I do is I set aside 2 hours in the morning where I'm going to do something that improves myself. I have a whole Upgrade Labs at my house. I have crazy things like hyperbaric that you actually don't need to do that often. I've got the infrared sauna, I've got cryotherapy and neurofeedback, the 40 years of Zen, which is based on this $16,000 5-day intensive brain upgrade. All that's there. So I might do neurofeedback. I don't do the same thing every day. And sometimes I don't do any of those things because there's other breath work or meditation stuff that I might do. But the idea is set aside a window and do something. It doesn't have to be the same thing. Making it rigid means you will fail. I guarantee you'll fail. And once you're like, oh, I failed, then you don't do anything. So if you have 2 hours and what you did that day is you made yourself a double espresso, good for you. So I just invite you, stop worrying about health, start focusing on one variable you can change. And when you do that, you'll get results.
I think that's the perfect way to end it. Dave, thank you very much indeed for your time.